Well, a massive diplomatic win for India at the BRICS Summit. The BRICS joint declaration names and shames Pakistan-backed terror groups. The declaration clearly mentions terror outfits Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Haqqani network, saying terror in any form cannot be justified. The declaration also says all BRICS leaders strongly condemn terrorism in all its forms and calls for greater efficiency in designation of terrorists, calling for improvising effectiveness of designating terror groups. Prime Minister Modi did not mention terror in his address, instead brought it up behind closed doors. With the declaration, China has isolated its old friend Pakistan and joined hands with India in its fight against terror.
Terrorism was an element that our Prime Minister spoke about, but he was not the only one. In fact, all the BRICS leaders came up very strongly in condemning terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, and you can see that being reflected in not just one but several paragraphs of the declaration that has been adopted, where the leaders have strongly condemned terrorism, and then they have also been able to identify and acknowledge the pernicious, the deleterious effects that certain terrorist organizations such as the Haqqani network, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba and others have had, and TTP others, that have had in terror, in spreading terror across. The leaders also called to make United Nations counter-terrorism framework more effective. The BRICS leaders called for greater efficiency in designation of terrorists and terrorist groups by UN committees, and for dismantling terrorist bases, of preventing movement of terrorists, of terror attacks that had taken place that were deployed all over the world, including in BRICS countries. They called for a comprehensive approach to fight against terrorism.
Let me now go across to my colleague Preeti Chaudhary, who is joining us for more on this declaration. Preeti, I believe you have the text of that declaration. Of course, a big diplomatic coup, and China not only being cornered, but Pakistan completely being exposed at BRICS as well.
Well, you're right there, Ankit. For the first time, we've had a joint declaration at the BRIC, which has named and shamed terror organization, where terror has been so strongly worded for. I just want to take our viewers through the joint declaration. Now, it's a 43-page joint declaration. So what we've done is we've gone through the entire declaration, and with what Preeti Saran just said there, that plenty of paragraphs here which talk about terror. But there's one. And we want to take our viewers through that one particular paragraph, which is the operative text, which encapsulates everything. Look at this. Now, that's point 48. And once again, we want to put it out there that there are many paragraphs which are condemning terror. But this is the one which is most important. And this is the one where India can actually count itself a big diplomatic win. Let's just look at it, how it's been worded. In this regard, we express concern on the security situation in the region and violence caused by the Taliban, the ISIL, the Daesh, the Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, including Eastern Turkestan, Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, the Haqqani network. Again, look at this. Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, TTP, Hizb ut-Tahrir, all of these, at least the last four, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, TTP, Hizb ut-Tahrir, all of them find their roots in Pakistan. So for the first time, Ankit, and you said that quite well, that this is definitely a diplomatic win. And how India walked that tight rope of diplomacy. In the morning, you had the Indian Prime Minister in the opening statement, shot one there, but refusing to even talk about terror, touched on graft, on women empowerment, everything else. However, the joint declaration comes out, and for the first time, China practically coerced into coming out strongly on terror, and by these organizations that have been named, clearly coming out strongly against Pakistan. Back to you, Ankit.
Thank you so much, Preeti, for joining us with that. Let me quickly cut across to Foreign Affairs Editor, India Today, Geeta Mohan, who is at Xiamen in China for the BRICS Summit. Geeta, one very interesting question now. Pakistan, always have been niggling India, and now with support of China, that problem was only escalating as far as India is concerned. China has been blocking Maulana Masood Azhar's designation as a global terrorist, with China also now branding Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba, the Haqqani network it will be a difficulty for China not to back India or not to back any further move to, put Maulana Masood Azhar and others in Pakistan in the same bracket as Syed Salahuddin and others.
Well, what is interesting over here is, Ankit, Jaish-e-Mohammed has been a proscribed organization when it comes to the United Nations. And yet, China, being a permanent member, has always treated Maulana Masood Azhar and Jaish-e-Mohammed as two separate entities seeking more information and proof and evidence from India at the UNSC, the 1267 Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee. Hence, we do not really know whether if the mention of Jaish-e-Mohammed for the first time in the Xiamen declaration in a BRICS joint statement is going to make a difference at the UNSC, but it certainly is a step forward in how all countries have come together in condemning terror, and this certainly has embarrassed Pakistan. Pakistan will have to contemplate on as to how they're going to gain support and continue to gain support from countries such as China, but in our hopes that China will start supporting India against terror networks that work against Indian interests and emanating from Pakistan, let's not keep our hopes up on that front, Ankit.
All right, Geeta, not sounding too optimistic there, given the history of China as far as Pakistan is concerned. Hamza Amir, my colleague, is now joining us from Islamabad in Pakistan. Hamza, I would not repeat and say that this is an embarrassment because such declarations have happened time and again. There have been mention of Pakistan-based terror groups. So it's nothing new as far as the embarrassing component of this declaration is concerned from Pakistan. Has there been a reaction? Is there a worry now that Pakistan is being isolated? It's all-weather ally China has been forced to name the terror organizations that work in Pakistan, and also United States putting pressure on the other side.
Well, Ankit, quite frankly, these organizations not only are operating in Pakistan, they're also operating in Afghanistan. So when the BRICS Summit actually, gives out a joint declaration naming the same organizations that have been named many times before by the global community and have been said to operate in Pakistan, Pakistan really does not have budged too much. Pakistan has always got an exit strategy, and that is very clear that we're fighting against them. They don't have safe havens in Pakistan. This is what reaction of Pakistan is expected. Though on this particular declaration, there has been a response of being the third day of Eid al-Adha and being an official holiday. There has been no responses from Pakistan. But I think this declaration is not taking a step forward from this particular event itself, and it is not only going to even impact on the UNSC, meeting that is coming up. So China, being there, one of the members of this BRICS Summit, has already given support for Pakistan at least twice in the past 2 times, has vetoed for Pakistan on their fight against terror. I don't think it is going to make too much of effect when it comes to, raising eyebrows in Pakistan, not only for the fact that it is not named Pakistan, it is named organizations, and most of these organizations, other than a few of Pakistan, are operating in Afghanistan. That means that they're raising direct questions on Afghanistan government, and also not only that, also on the NATO forces that are there for 16 long years. So, Pakistan,
Hamza, as you are saying, it doesn't seem that much on the ground is going to change as far as Pakistan is concerned. I request both Hamza and Geeta to stay on with me. We are getting a breaking news from the BRICS Summit. Well, another unprecedented win for India. This is a very good victory as far as India is concerned at the BRICS Summit. Not only have the Pakistan-based terror groups been named at the BRICS declaration, has also backed India's stand to become a member of the nuclear suppliers group. This is big. So far, China was the one which was in fact, blocking India's entry at the nuclear suppliers group, also trying to put Pakistan on the same pedestal. Now with China, of course, also a member of the BRICS, and the BRICS declaration also backing India's stand to become a member of the nuclear suppliers group. This is a big victory for India. So far, there have been numerous questions. I have been to the Ministry of External Affairs press conferences, and there have been time and again questions on engagement with China as far as the NSG is concerned. And the answer so far from India has been we are constructively talking to China. That seems to be yielding results now. Anant Krishnan, my colleague, is now joining me from Xiamen for more on this story. Anant, this is big. India so far has been saying that they were constructively trying to engage with China. NSG, the only hindrance was China. Now it seems all decks are cleared.
Well, Ankit, we'll have to be careful in terms of seeing whether all decks are cleared, but officials here have highlighted one of the aspects of the joint declaration that stresses the need for a very predictable climate and environment for India and other countries to access civilian nuclear technology and finance. And why is this significant? Because this is exactly the words that India has been using for the past year as it put forward its case to join the NSG. And the BRICS declaration has almost word for word endorsed India's argument, and that's extremely significant. Officials are saying they'll have to wait and see how China acts at the next NSG plenary session. But in their view, the fact that the highest levels of the Chinese leadership have signed off on this is certainly something that at least points in the right direction.
That's right. It's a movement forward, as you're saying, Anand. Just put it in perspective for our viewers. On one hand, on paragraph 48 of the declaration, we have the Pakistan-based terror groups being named in the declaration. We also now, as you've been sending this story to us, the officials there from India saying that there has been a mention as far as the NSG is concerned in the BRICS declaration, support for India. Put all this in perspective. This is a movement forward, a big leap forward as far as India's diplomatic, prowess is concerned in the region.
That's certainly correct, Ankit, in terms of both issues that have been intractable issues in the India-China bilateral relationship. As you may recall, last year in Goa, India was not able to mention Pakistani groups in the declaration because China and Russia as well felt that it would be something that the Pakistanis would not approve of. So it's certainly in 1 year to especially do this in Xiamen as China hosts the summit is certainly something that is a positive development as far as India is concerned, that China has actually allowed the mentioning of several Pakistani groups. And of course, in return, the BRICS countries have highlighted China's own battle with the East Turkestan Islamic movement in Xinjiang, which is something that India obviously would be fine with. But the fact that China has signed off on this, Ankit, is certainly a very positive development as far as India is concerned.
Anand Krishnan, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. Thanks also to Geeta Mohan and Hamza Amir. I have to slip into a very short break at this moment. Much more on the other side. Stay tuned.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.